everybody. I am going to be showing you all how to make your own raw dog food. Now, you don't have to serve it raw. You can actually bake it if you would like and prefer to do that, like a meatloaf. But raw is just fine because we're placing it back into the freezer for at least 3 days to be frozen. So if there was any kind of contamination for salmonella, that would rid all of that out of the meat product. So I'm not worried about anything bad happening by feeding raw dog food to my precious little ones that are like my babies. So if you are interested in doing this, follow along with me. I'm going to share with you some tips, some tricks, and some things that my 3 dogs enjoy to eat. And I know that they are healthy. I know that I could eat the food that I serve them. And I know that nothing is going to happen to them based on food on my watch. And so if you're interested, stay tuned. Okay, so today we are making homemade raw dog food, and I have gotten this great big tub. Many times I use about 10 pounds of meat when I make this so that I have tons and tons, and I don't have to do it very often. However, because we are living in our RV full time now, I am doing a smaller batch, which is going to consist of 5 pounds of meat. So 5 pounds of meat is about this much, as you can see. Ground beef. I generally go with whatever is on sale. So if turkey is on sale versus the ground beef, then I go with turkey. So I like to mix it up so the dogs don't get bored. And sometimes I throw in some extra things, and we'll talk about that as we go. So I'm going to take off my rings because it gets messy. It's kind of like making meatloaf. Okay. Take my eggs out of here. So I am just going to open up this meat here. And I'm going to just dump it in. It's pretty cold. And if you can hear my dogs, they can tell I'm making dog food. But I've got them in the kennel so that they're not under my feet for this video. And they love it. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the dog food. They love, love, love it. Okay, so we have our meat in here. Now, because we're in a small town, for some reason the grocery stores here don't seem to want to sell in the freezer section a large bag of carrots and peas. So I am resorting to the canned carrots and the canned peas. But normally, in a bigger town, I find the peas and the carrots in the frozen section in the really big bag, and it works out a lot better, and there's a lot less to throw away. I hate having to throw all these cans out, but I drained them all, and we are adding these peas and carrots in. Now, mind you, if you have a garden or you have some vegetables in your refrigerator that might be on the verge of you might not want to eat them anymore, but they're still good, this is a great place for those veggies to go. Now, there are vegetables that dogs should not eat, so you will want to look those up and stay clear of those. So I will also sometimes add broccoli or cauliflower or green beans to my mix, and they love it. So I have a awesome pressure cooker. Woo! And it has a lot of water in there. I'm just taking the lid off. And this pressure cooker is just amazing. I cooked 2 cups of brown rice, and normally that takes about 45 minutes on the stove, and with my handy dandy pressure cooker it only takes 14 minutes. But I've also let this cool. Just grabbing me a spoon here. And as you can see, it doesn't look like just brown rice. I had some carrots in the fridge, so I went ahead and chopped up the carrots and put them in here. And it's yellow, right? So turmeric. I put a lot of turmeric in here because my dogs are 11 to 12 years old, and turmeric is very helpful for their joints and their joint pain. So that's where my rice is getting its yellow color. You can also see some green in here, and that is parsley. Parsley is really good for the dog's breath, and my dogs don't have a lot of teeth left anymore, and they always have bad breath. So that is why I started adding parsley to help with their breath. The other thing I put in here was not only some water, but I did half water and half of a beef broth that has no salt added. And I also did kind of a big scoop, let's see, maybe a tablespoon and a half of bacon drippings. So when I make bacon, I pour off the drippings and I keep it in the refrigerator. So instead of butter, when you make your rice, I use the bacon drippings. Now, you see this and you know that this is going to be dog food, but as you can tell, we could eat this. There's nothing wrong with this. I mean, generally we don't cook with bacon fat like that, but it's edible to us, okay? I mean, here, trust me. I'll even eat some. Here we go. Perfect. I mean, to me, it needs some salt, but I'm not into giving salt to my puppies, so we're going to add this right now. And I did 2 cups of rice. And instead of measuring it out, I've done this so much that it's pretty right on the money when I make 2 cups of rice, because I add all that other good stuff to it as well. And the reason I add the veggies in this process was because the veggies needed cooked. And so now those carrots are soft enough that my dear ones with no teeth can actually eat it. So I'm going to put this back. I'll wash that later. Okay. So it's kind of like a meatloaf, right? All right. So granted, I don't eat wheat. I don't eat gluten. However, wheat germ is important for vitamin E and their folic acid. And they're scratching at their kennel they want out. They know what I'm doing. So I just eyeball. For this amount, I do about 2/4 of a cup, roughly. It's no science. It's not going to go bad if you overdo something. The other thing is hemp hearts. You can find these at Costco and your grocery store. Try not to pay too much for them. I've seen some stores have them really expensive. But again, hemp hearts seeds are all natural. We can eat them. They're good for you. And about the same, I do about the same with hemp hearts as I do the wheat germ. Okay, like I say, you're not going to ruin anything if you put more or less. It's totally fine. And every once in a while, I might have run out of one of those and it's time to make dog food. And so I omit it. And then when I get it, I just sprinkle it on top when I add it too. Now, I know ketchup is very fun. Add some sweetness. I just put some ketchup in. Just a little fun sweetness for them. They enjoy it. And then the eggs come into place. Now, I'm just going to crack 2 of these in here, just like a meatloaf. And I'll mix those up. But with the rest of them, wash my hands off here. I'm actually got them ready right here in my little Ninja. And as you can see, I have put them directly into this Ninja blender. Lid on here. What? I'm adding eggshells. What? Yeah, eggshells. Isn't that crazy? So here we go. Eggshells contain calcium. So calcium is super good for the dogs, and they need that for their bones, just like we do. I'm gonna plug my thing in here. Sorry if I'm moving the... Okay, so this might be a little noisy, but... Okay. So I like to just make sure that the eggshells have gotten blended up small enough that it's not an issue for the dogs to be able to eat them. And sometimes when I've had a lot of eggs, or I've made recipes with a lot of eggs, I've tossed the eggshells aside and I've blended just primarily eggshells up. And so I've been able to add simply just eggshells if I didn't want to do this and I just wanted to crack the eggs and go. That works too. Okay. So in with our eggs, in with our shells. And granted, again, we still can eat all of this. Mind you, we probably don't want to eat the eggshells. But it is good calcium, and the dogs love it. They do not complain. In fact, they only complain if they're getting dog food that isn't my homemade dog food. They get a little finicky, and they're getting a little more finicky the older they get. Kind of funny. But they are spoiled puppies, I tell ya. Okay, so we've got that, got that. Okay, so the other thing, I had a little piece of apple left over this morning. I chopped it up. Granted, this isn't much, but I'm still going to put this apple, make sure you peel the apple, and I'm putting that in there. I don't have another one, but I would put a banana in here. I could also put yams in here, or a whole apple that I've chopped up. Remove the seeds, remove the skin, and it'll be just fine. The other thing you can add is cheese. And actually, I'm going to grab some cheese. And you know, dogs just love cheese, and so I just happen to have a bunch of cheese here. This is like a drop in the bucket compared to how much I have. If I had more cheese, I'd put more in, but that's going to be good. Basically, this is just triple cheddar, all good cheese for the puppies. Okay? All right, anything else I can think of? So I was just going to show you what I put into the rice. If I can see that. It's turmeric. Boy, it's raining today. And parsley was the other thing that I put into the dog food. So this part is just like making meatloaf, okay? And we might need to add a little bit of water in here just to give it some movement and pliability. And because I had put some water in here, I'm just going to add a little bit of water just so it has room to moisture to collect and adhere to each other. This is why I take off my rings, because this is where it is messy. This is where you get a workout and you get to work on those arm muscles. And we're just going to mix this all up. Now the other thing I like to do as a treat, or if I can find it at the store, and it's super cheap, but it is chicken hearts and chicken gizzards Those are always fun. My dogs are small. Gracie is 4 pounds, and she's the one that only has about 2 teeth left. Sammy is 6 pounds, and she's lost a lot of teeth. And our biggest dog is Nacho, and he is 10 pounds. But they're all getting really old. And organ meat is very helpful for the dogs as well. And so, not every time do I put organ meat in with this mix. The store didn't happen to have any this go around when I went shopping, so this mix won't have it. But what I do for mine, being my dogs are small, is I actually cut the hearts up into about 3 or 4 pieces. And same with the gizzards. Just because I don't want them to swallow it whole. I hope that they can chew it as much as they can with the less teeth they have. But that would just be a really large chunk that I wouldn't want them to choke on because it doesn't dissolve like one of these carrots. If you have a bigger dog, of course, you probably don't have to do that. Now, I'm looking at this mixture, and I probably could have made a little bit more rice because it's a little heavy on the meat, but it's still good. And the one thing to know is if you are also trying to help your animal with a weight issue, if they're overweight or they need to lose some weight, this is a very restricted calorie diet. And by no means am I a specialist in that area, but I do know that once my dogs went on this and the bowl just wasn't full all day long, they lost weight, but yet they still looked good. Wash my hands here. They still looked good. Their hair looked amazing after going on to this diet. Their hair is absolutely beautiful, shiny. They look younger. They act younger. And I know that they're healthy. And I know that I'm not risking their lives by purchasing a store brand kibble food that might have issues. I know years ago, well, not even that far, just a while back, a lot of dogs and cats had been dying because of the contaminants that were in dog food. And it's really not even the reason why I started making my own. I started making my own because it was about 2 years ago that my little Gracie almost died on us because I hadn't had her fixed early on in life, because I always thought that I was going to breed her and have puppies, and life got in the way. I had cancer, and you know, you just kind of forget. Life goes on and you just forget. And well, I can't remember the name of it, but that was the issue. She needed fixed, and it was super scary. It was about 3 times we thought we were going to lose her. So it was after that I decided, on my watch, I don't want anything to happen to my dogs that was because of my neglect, and I have no reason why I can't treat them to a super wonderful, excuse this mess here, a super wonderful diet and home and everything that they could possibly want. So that is why I started on this adventure of the raw food diet. And thanks to a dear friend of mine, Kimberly Renee, she raises dogs and does all kinds of things with dogs, and she's the one that turned me on to this raw food diet for the dogs. So here we go. I am going to get this going here. So the trick with this is getting it in the freezer. And there's many different ways you can do this, and whatever's best, works best for you is awesome. I use this parchment paper because wax paper seems to stick to the dog food once it's frozen. and then I have to peel it off of the dog food. It's frustrating. Same with tin foil. I've tried Tupperware dishes, but then I have all this Tupperware in the freezer and I don't have room for that. So I go in stages with my cookie sheets and my cutting boards. And here's the part that you need to figure out for your dog's size. So let me get my measuring cups. Okay. So a 10-pound dog needs about, I don't know if you can see that, but it needs about a half a cup a day. For my dog, my 10-pound dog needs a half a cup. My 4 and 6-pound dogs, they need about a quarter-size cup. So I've done this a few different ways. I scooped all of it out. I froze it in quarter-size cups. I've scooped it all out, froze it in half-size cups. And let me tell you, that's a pain in the ass. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so I do like using the half-cup scooper, but I tend to have mastered a size in my hand that works well. And so what I do, let me just grab a scoop here. So this is about a half a cup. In fact, let's just check it. Okay. Yep, it's about a half a cup. It's a little bit more, but that's okay. So instead of it sticking in here, I just prefer to use my hands. I worked in a bakery years ago, and the best tools we have is our hands. So I just go along and I make these little mounds. I'm not worried. If they get more one day, well, they are lucky puppies. I love them. And they're listening to me. So I just do this. Now, Kimberly, she had told me for her big dogs, she makes a circle, like a large softball shape. And she has all these circles and puts them in the freezer in these pans. And then she knows her German Shepherds will get a softball size to eat, and her smaller dogs get more of a meatball size to eat. So whatever you find works best for you. Now, when we were in a traditional house, I had a freezer in the garage. And so I would make up this 10-pound batch and get it all frozen real quick. And then I remove the frozen sections and I put them in large Ziploc bags. And then I put them back in the freezer, with getting just one out a week when I need one. So simple as that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I've got 7 here. So as you can see, this will feed my 10-pound dog for 1 week. And I just feed them once a day. You can choose what's best for you, whether it's morning or night. We choose to feed them in the morning. And this is 1 week's worth of food for Nacho. So I'm going to put this in the freezer. So we just do this over and over again until all of our dog food has been used up and frozen. Oh, and I didn't mention too, that tray, that feeds my 10-pound dog for a week, but it feeds my 2 small dogs for a week as well. So that same amount, I just divide between the 2 of them. These are a little bit wider than my pans. Okay, stay put. All right, here we go. Round 2. And off we go. And you know, I love getting systems in place. I get a little system going and I just rock this out, and it's kind of a fun way to not really think about anything. And I just keep going until it's done. Nacho's in there. want me to let him out of his kennel. I love my puppies. It's been a little bit of a transition for them moving into an RV. I don't know if it's a transition for them or if it's a transition for us, really. I do miss having the backyard where I can open up the back door and let them go, and I know they're safe and they're not getting into anything. In the RV, I probably could still do that, but if I go to this much trouble to make raw dog food, homemade dog food for them, there is no way on God's green earth I'm just going to open up the door and let them run. There's a lot of dogs around, and they could definitely be chew toys for those big dogs. So, nope, I can't do it. But it gets me outside, even if it's raining like today. So there we go. We have our second tray, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So there's 12 on that tray. So that, well, 7. So yeah, so 7 of them feeds one. Okay, screw that. So this will go into the freezer next as soon as I make some more space. And we'll get one more thing out here. Ta! One more. Now the other thing that you can do, oh, you can put blueberries in too. Blueberries are really good for dogs. I make homemade treats as well. One of the things that they really love is oatmeal, honey, and peanut butter mixed together. Boy, they love that. In fact, you could put oatmeal rolled oats in here as a filler as well. I tend to stay away from flour because I don't want a lot of filler in my dog food. I really want it to be healthy for them. I'm not a specialist. I am not a veterinarian. I'm just a mom that loves her dogs and wants them to be healthy. So I've watched tons of videos. I've watched vets. There are some vets that are against this. There are some vets that are for this. And so, you know, don't take my advice. Do your research. Check out what's good for you, what's good for your dogs, what you believe in, and what works. Because I know dogs and pets and animals, they're all different, just like us humans. So we got to figure out what works the best for them. The other nice thing I love about this diet is they don't poop as much. So there's less to pick up, which I really enjoy that part a lot. a lot. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8. So we've got 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So we have 29 sections. So if I just had my 10-pound dog, this 5-pound batch of meat mixture would feed my dog for 29 days, for a month. So basically, this is going to cover Nacho, his meals for half a month, and Sammy and Gracie's meals for half a month. And so I'll be making dog food again. Now granted, like I said earlier, I used to use a 10-pound, which would just be heaping full, and double up everything. And I only had to make dog food about every month and a half. Okay, I'm gonna let these freeze, and I'll come back to you when they're frozen and we're bagging them up. Welcome back. They're now frozen. I can actually pry them off of the board. They're not fully frozen, but enough for me to handle them. So I am going to put them into some Ziploc baggies, and I like to label them, the date, and all that good stuff. So there's many different things that you can add to this dog food. Blueberries, or you could reserve blueberries for a dog treat. I've made treats with bacon and peanut butter and oatmeal. The rolled oats, they love them. The ones they love the best are like my peanut butter oaties, and it's between me and the dogs who gets more because I love it too. But it's that honey, rolled oats, and peanut butter. It's, oh my gosh, it's a really good recipe. I can make a meatloaf out of this, and I have done that, especially when I make the 10-pound bag, 10-pound amount. I will use a loaf pan, and I'll put it in the oven just like a meatloaf and cook it for an hour at 375 and get that out, let it cool. And I just leave it in the pan. You could take it out if you wanted, but I bought pans that are just for the dog food, and I freeze them. And then when I get one out, then I do use the measuring cup to scoop out so I'm getting the right amount. And they love it, and it's cooked, and it just gives them a different texture and a different feel of the same healthy food. The other thing that I've done is I've taken a cookie sheet with edges on it, and I have smeared it very greased. I grease it first. I smeared it full on, and so it was like the height of the edges of the pan, if that makes sense. And I bake that until it's pretty dry, almost like a real crumble, because what I'm trying to get is that consistency of a kibble. And then once I pull that out, I take my pizza cutter and I run along just really tiny bite sizes because I have tiny dogs, but I run up and down about a ½ inch, and I make little squares, and then I get my scraper and I scrape it all up and toss it, and voila, I have my very own kibble cooked, ready to go. And I keep it in a bag, and I keep it in the refrigerator just in case, you know, you just never know. I'm not sure, being it has no preservatives, I don't want to leave it out in the open. So yeah, the last batch I made, I actually put in some yams in here as well. You can also add a little bit of pumpkin, not too much, or they'll be going potty a lot. But I do add a little bit of pumpkin to keep their intestines going and things are moving, and you'll find that they are it's just a lot healthier. Their belly health is better, their outside appearance is better. Their eyes are wider, and they're just more alert, healthy, and happy dogs. So I hope that you will try it. And basically, I'll put the recipe down below as to kind of my mix, but know that you can morph it. You can add more, add less, add something different. Just really do your research and make sure that you are not putting anything in that a dog cannot eat. For example, onions, avocados, nuts, chocolate, any kind of that kind of stuff, stay away from. There is a very large list if you do the research online of what not to put into your dog's food, what not to allow them to eat. So big disclaimer there, please beware that you know, fish bones, things like that. Yes, there is salmon that you can use for your dog food, but just really be careful. I have not made any out of fish just because I'm not confident in my own skill set to make sure I am not doing something that isn't going to be healthy for my dogs. So do your research. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like after it's frozen. Thanks for watching.